Welcome everyone to your TOEFL Reading Inference Skills lesson. It's going to help you to improve your reading score here at TOEFL Talk with NoteFull, episode number 10. As we like to say, time flies, right? Great to be working with you. So in this video and in these lessons, you get to ask your questions, we build our vocabulary together to get you to success, and we partner until you reach your dream TOEFL score. So I'm Joseph from NoteFull, and I'm very excited to be with you. And so the first thing, since we're in episode 10, is to make sure that we're connected. I want to make sure to go through the comments that you posted on our last video, our last episode, number 9, which you'll see a link to below if you missed it, to improve your TOEFL reading time management, because that's really the foundation of your success to your dream score. So make sure as you're studying, make sure as you're learning strategy and vocabulary, that you keep that in mind. And so let's go to your comments and kind of address what you're bringing up to help you even more for the reading and share what inspired us for today's lesson. So to begin, the first comment that we see is from Hamoud. Before watching this video, our TOEFL reading time management video, my stance was time management by feeling, as I want a perfect score in reading and hesitate to move on to the next question without ensuring myself that my previous answer is correct. Totally normal. Very happy you watched that video, Hamoud, and you learned, but after the experience with the video, I realized that time management should be by choice. So just as a reminder, everyone watching, that means, if you watch the video we link to below, episode number 9, we talk about our time management and how important it is that even when we feel uncomfortable, we move on, because the difficulty of the questions isn't equal. So question number 2 on the TOEFL reading may be much harder than question number 28. So if you're investing a lot of time in tough questions, you're not managing your time, you're feeling, I'm not comfortable moving on yet, so you take too much time on one question, it hurts us because we're stressed and we don't have time for future questions that are a bit easier. So my dream score is at least 115, and that'll obviously come through sound strategy in all aspects. Bravo, Hamoud. Well said. You can do it. 115 is an amazing score. Work hard, stay confident, and just be patient for you and everybody. You're learning what works, and it just takes time to build that strength and mastery. Just like any muscle, right? Your skills take that time, but they get stronger. So Naz, thank you so much for this amazing lesson as always. Thank you for your kind words. Sure, I will master time management from now and guess when I need. Excellent. Sometimes trust yourself that you're guessing, but you're guessing intelligently. You've learned strategy, you're working hard to improve. So when you're stuck between two answers on the reading, you see your time running out, you're disciplined, you're a little stressed, just breathe and then trust yourself, trust your brain, even if it makes a mistake. Because you read things with care, you followed strategy, so you choose your answer the best you can and you move on. Best way to improve your score. For me, I want to score 90 plus, and my confidence level is becoming high, especially with these videos. Awesome. Stay confident, stay comfortable, and I do this so we all know we have different goals, but we're all really working hard to improve. And all of us have different journeys. Some of us, because of our background, may take weeks. Some of us, because we want to improve 30, 40 points, we're planning ahead, need a year or two. It is improving your English level to such a much higher degree, so you want to be comfortable with that time investment wherever you are. But absolutely, Naz, it's coming. Augustine, need help with the question in which you have to locate a sentence? So I believe you're talking about the plug-in question. So the plug-in question is where you have to put one sentence in the right place in a paragraph. We're going to talk about inference questions today, and I'll do my best to explain the strategy because it's all related in a way that helps you with that. So thank you for that message. Uku du jour. So apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Hello, Mr. Joseph. I just want to say a big thank you to you and the whole NoteFull team. Thank you. I practiced with your videos just for a month. I was careful to follow your suggestions, listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Got 97. Awesome. And thank you for posting that because that's for Nas, right? You're learning what works. Keep it up. You can get your 97 too. And for Hamoud, it shows, keep doing what you're doing because just like we have here, uku du jour, right? You can trust that if you kept studying and kept moving forward, you'd get that 115. I promise you, all the way up to a 120 if you want to dedicate that much time to it, which not all of us do because that's quite an intense amount of work. So my dream score, I just received my score today and I'm so happy because it's my first time of writing the test and I did a good job. Thank you. Keep up the good work. You too appreciate it. And I want to take a moment here because we're all different. So it took uku du jour a month and it was the first exam that was passed. But some of us maybe we've been on this journey for years. Some of us maybe have taken the exam 3 times, 30 times, 60 times. I know some of us out there have done that because we're doing this for over 12 years. So just in reading the comments, it's a chance to connect with you, feel a little bit more personal. So you can comment here, a real interaction meant to support you. Stay strong, right? This video is coming out at the end of 2020, which is the beginning of 2021. And let's make a commitment to make 2021 the last year we deal with the TOEFL. Every one of you watching, our goal will be week by week, working together every other week with this series to get you to pass this coming year. Stay strong and know your success is coming. So Eric, 2019 I got 71, 2020 I managed to increase to 83. Bravo, a 12-point increase comes with a lot of work. This was not easy at all. You have to be a bulldog about it. Bulldog, absolutely. So let's go to our vocab. We all know bulldogs, right? So bulldogs have a reputation for being kind of strong, right? Once they bite something, they never let go. So I love that metaphor, right? You have to be a bulldog, which is true. The average student to improve 12 points, that's a whole nother level of fluency in English. That can take probably around, I would say, anywhere from 100 to 400 hours of study, depending on the student, depending on what level you're at. But you're absolutely right, Eric. It doesn't come easy. And I hope for all of us, it motivates us. We can do it too if we have that bulldog energy. So Soul Symphony, great name. I have approximately 1 week, so till the big day. Thank you for your kind words. But I need resources to practice. So it was a while ago. So for resources, there are a couple things. So first, good luck, because that means we're posting this video, I think, when you already took your exam. So we hope it went well. If not, know your success is coming. 2 ways to get resources. A lot online. If the only thing that you have to be careful of is organizing. So you can just Google, TOEFL reading practice, or you can also search for it on YouTube. And I promise you'll find plenty for the listening, speaking, and writing. So what makes courses different from anybody and from us is that they're organized. Because depending on how much you want to improve, right? Some of us, I think most of you watching, you don't just want to get ready for the exam, you want to score high. So you're looking to not just prepare for what's going to happen, but actually improve your ability. So you study week after week to get a top score. So in that case, what I would say to you is make sure you're combining the lessons with the training so that you're spending a lot of time reviewing what you practice, that you make mistakes with, even what you get correct. To double check it, watch the videos that train, and then you can go back and forth. And of course, at the end of this video, we always share how to connect with NoteFull, where we have all the practice you need to train you month by month until you get up to a 120. Students have done it, so know it can happen. So hope that helps. Muhammad, it's a really powerful lesson, right? Time management, excellent that you found it important as we do for your success. Facing the TOEFL test takers, thank you so much for giving us a strategy that we can use to compromise between time control and keeping our psychological state up during the test. Well said. Well said. So remember, it's really important because I often tell students when we train them in classes and the material, If all we did, this is really important, was improve your focus by 10%, instantly you'll get a higher score. It's that important. So when we talk about psychological state, it's a stressful exam, so you don't want to stress about being stressed. You want to accept stress as normal and just keep taking deep breaths, telling yourself, I can do it, or just focus, so that as you study, you stay calm, because it is tough for a native speaker, a non-native speaker. The exam is not easy. So realize you're not alone in that stress, and everybody goes through it, almost everybody. So you just, I do, we do. So you just want to keep breathing so you can stay focused. I'm looking for 110 plus, another amazing high dream score in the TOEFL exam. I'm excited and determined. Excellent. I think your guidance and recommendations will help. You made in your channel. No things could still impossible for anyone who wants to achieve a high score in the TOEFL exam. Bravo. Absolutely, Muhammad and everybody. It's not impossible. Sometimes we can feel it. Sometimes we can feel stressed, even depressed if we just taken an exam we worked hard for and didn't improve. But know what you're learning, a language defined over years, taught over centuries, the exam, 10 plus years. You're learning what works, but doesn't mean it's easy, right? Remember, we've got to be a bulldog. So absolutely you can get your 110 plus. Today's lesson on inference questions, we're going to focus on that, right? To make sure that you know that intense skill of how to read well, so you answer inference questions correctly, detail questions better, what we call plug-in, where you locate the sentence, everything better. So siamak, right? So I hope you enjoy, a lot of you can just fast forward through the comments, but I really want to connect with you through them, and I hope you're enjoying the interaction, because these are your classmates, right? And in our group together, and sometimes we can feel alone on our TOEFL journey, and just knowing we're working with others, when we succeed, others get excited and motivated. It's a positive thing, it's not like we're in this alone. So I hope you enjoy this. So Siamak, thanks for the helpful video. Happy it helped. My dream score is 90 and above. Also, I'm going to take the exam January 16th. Good luck. I have a tough time memorizing vocab out of context. Further, when I face with some special topics in reading, I lose my confidence and couldn't understand reading, and consequently cannot answer fast and correct. What should I do? Great question. Something for all of us before we get into our main lesson. Number one, do you have your study time organized from today to the 16th? Like, do you have a schedule of, okay, I'm going to study 20 hours this week, 20 hours next week. I'm going to spend, 5 hours on the reading, 20 hours on the listening, 20 hours on the speaking, depending on what you want to focus on. So Siamak and others, we talk about how to work with us. The first thing we train you on when you register for any course is that. There's nothing more important than, before you start studying, to have an organized plan. So that way, as you know, when you're organized, you succeed faster than when you're disorganized. At least that's been our experience. So I would encourage that first. The second thing, I have a tough time memorizing vocab out of context. Very normal. Everybody does. So what I would say to you and everybody is, the best way to memorize vocabulary is to always have the source that you got the vocabulary word from. Like sometimes in our vocab that we work on, like we had bulldog over here, you hear it in a conversation. So if you hear a word in the listening, when you're studying the listening or the speaking or the writing, and you hear a word in a lecture, write it down in the sentence you heard it from. So you have the sentence with the word. If you're doing something for the reading, the same thing. You might write 1 or 2 sentences, so you have more of the information. So it's in your notebook, which you want to have a notebook. That's one thing we teach you too, to have a notebook for every section, or at least divide your notebook into the TOEFL sections. You want to write those sentences down, because the interesting thing is, when you go back, you're going to see the sentence and it gives you a clue, so it helps you remember better. It teaches you the grammar just in the sentence that you wrote down. It reminds you of how to use the word. Often they need to be connected with prepositions, or words are often used in specific in specific ways. You know, it's not a word that can be used anywhere. So once you know that, absolutely. And then when you start to get familiar with the sentences, or at the same time, you also have flashcards with only the word. So it's like you're doing both. You're focusing on the sentence that has the vocab word where you first learned it, or, you know, if you just learned a word from a list, you see, we do it all the time. Any dictionary, online dictionary, often gives you example sentences. So you write that down. So you have, you know, two sources, the list of sentences and the individual words, and you go back and forth between them. And that's a really good way, because sometimes you have to learn the word by itself, while at the same time giving your brain a sense of how it's used, giving it clues when you read the sentence. Now, a lot of students say this, and it is absolutely true, because every topic on the reading, you might have more or less interest in it. You might have unfamiliar or familiar vocabulary with it. So I would give you siamak, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, siamak. Hope I am. If not, I apologize. For everybody, when you have a topic that is tough, take time with it. Go on YouTube, learn about it, Google it, read some articles about it. Spend 20 to 30 minutes on any topic that you're unfamiliar with in any practice material that you have for the reading, listening, speaking, or writing, because you're always learning about something. And that's going to expand your vocabulary, because the TOEFL topics are limited. They're trying to match the common subject areas that are in undergraduate school, right? Because it's an exam to place you in graduate or undergraduate school, but that's what they concentrate on. So once you get familiar with a few unfamiliar topics, every topic will start to feel more familiar. And one other thing, let yourself become a curious student, right? When there's a topic that you're unfamiliar with, just take a moment to tell yourself, I'm going to be curious. I'm interested in learning about this. And all of a sudden, it can change the way you learn, because you don't have to know what the topic is about to get a 30 out of 30. You just have to be skillful at reading about any topic. So that means that you're allowing the reading to teach you about this new topic, because that's what the TOEFL is trying to copy. They're trying to give you information that is new to you in a way that shows how well are you able to learn new information. So it's kind of a part of the exam, definitely something that I hope you stay confident with by telling yourself, I'm a good student, I am an academic professional, all of you are, so I'm going to learn this like anything new, right? Every time you go to class, you're learning something a bit new, so let that, I hope, give you confidence. Cannot answer fast and correct. Well, what I would say is, remember the deep breathing and the time management, and then with the tips given so far, I hope that helps you and everybody to remember that you don't want to answer fast. You want to answer on time. And just know you're going to make mistakes until you get a 30 out of 30. So it's kind of something we need to accept as we improve. So you just want to make sure that you're calm, you're focused, and you're applying strategy. So I hope that helps. It gives you guidance, and you see from your classmates that passed and that did well, you can and will too. Keep it up. Hope that helps. Elsa, thanks for the comment. You're welcome for the video. Menu Chair, hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You have to bring a passage and answer questions, not just strategy. So in the time management video, you're right. We didn't do a reading, because the interesting thing is, for example, today we are going to do a TOEFL question. But in learning about time management, the important thing is a reading is not necessary, because time management is separate, disconnected from any reading, whether your reading is tough, easy, hard, long, short, difficult, whatever it may be. Time management is the same. So you want to master and memorize time management independent of any reading, and then apply it. That's the tough part, and it takes practice. But again, the other thing with these lessons is I hope you know they're meant to support you in a deeper way, right? Going through a reading and time management is that, in the classes that we have, we'll talk about at the end of the video, the classes we have for next month and every month. It takes us 4 hours to go through a reading to master time management and all the strategies. And even that isn't enough because we give homework. So every video has a limitation. So I hope you still found it helpful. So Ola, I'm embarrassed to say that I have a TOEFL test tomorrow and I just started to prepare for the test today. Don't worry, you got to start somewhere. It's okay. I know it's like suicide. Not quite. Stay confident. You obviously took the test already. We hope you did well. Any quick advice? Yes. If you're in this situation, like if you're watching the video now and you have your exam in a day, I would not review strategy. I would just get familiar with the exam. So this would probably not be a video I would recommend you invest your time in. Not this one. I would go on YouTube and just learn how's the reading section, how's the listening section, how's the speaking, how's the writing. Get a notebook, and then just like we talked before, you do want to organize your studies where even if you have 4 hours before your exam, it's like, okay, I'm going to spend an hour learning about the whole exam, make sure I feel confident what to expect. I'm going to spend 45 minutes studying each section, just what's the most important thing, and you YouTube or you Google that. So it's good to know how much time you have to prepare. So I hope that helps for everybody because it's normal. We're all different. Some of us just need to take the exam and move on. So it's just how many hours before your exam, divide that time evenly between the different sections. And if you just have a day or two, you just need to get familiar. So you're not surprised. It's tough. You have a sense of a basic strategy and what to expect. So Soul Symphony asks how it went. We all do. We hope it went well, Ola. So Saeed, awesome lesson. I want to get 90 plus. So we're just going to do a few more of these. We're going to do them all. I think this might be the last one. So I want to get 90 plus, but my confidence is a little bit lower than my dream score. I'm going to take the test in January. I hope I get it. We do too. You can do it, Saeed. And remember, for you and everybody, practice your deep breaths. I know sometimes it's like, oh, that sounds a little childish, or I'm not going to do that. But every single student that we trained on it always talked about how effective and powerful it was. So take your deep breath, Saeed, eyes closed. After you finish, give yourself a sentence declaring, I can do it, right? Or, okay, just focus or follow strategy, something that moves you forward. So good luck, keep following, and we will get to your dream score. Olga says the same thing and also talks about, are you already taking classes with him? How is it? Please help me. I need at least 90 to apply to a master's degree. If you say that the course is worth it, I'll do my best to buy it too. So at the end of the video, I always give a link, right? Reference a link where you'll learn about the self-study courses that we have and the online courses that we have. And feel comfortable too for everybody, Olga and everybody. We're here for you. So anything you register for, give it a try, feel safe, and if it doesn't work for you, you get you email us, you get your full refund, no problem. So that way you can hear what other people give feedback to. A lot of students recommend NoteFull, but you can also feel safe trying it for yourself. And Saeed, same thing, haven't taken classes. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, and sometimes that's normal, right? Like Saeed here says, I'll see after my first attempt. Completely. It's great to have that mindset where, you know what, I'm going to prepare by myself. I think I can do it to score well and see how I do on my first exam or my second or my third. If you have that confidence in yourself, no problem. But it is important to have a sense where if I'm not improving how much I want, open the door to getting the support that you need. Just because support can be powerfully and will be powerfully helpful, and on your own you can be stuck for a while. So once you kind of discover I'm learning a lot, I'm watching a lot, I'm studying a lot, but I'm not noticing improvement, feel comfortable taking that step. And again, at the end of our video, we'll share how to do that with us. So those are all the comments. I appreciate you sticking with it, kind of keeping that community energy. And also, I hope that in that discussion, there were some things that you found helpful for you. So now, right, ready to transition into inference questions. So let's get our mind comfortable. Take your deep breath if you need to. Our lesson begins. So in training inference questions, there's a challenge because it can become easily convoluted. And so convoluted is a great word. We used it before. So convoluted means extremely complex and difficult to follow. So convoluted, if we start to dig into it, it can feel like that. So we want to keep things simple. So how do we keep things simple while at the same time speaking in enough detail to help you? So the first thing I want to remind you is keep it simple, right? If you just read with care, inference questions will immediately become easier for you because they often test your focus on one word or a few ideas. So to help you with inference questions and building your ability to understand a reading, there are a couple things we're going to teach you with. First, this is really interesting. I'm not going to consider it a vocab. So there's something called modus ponens or tollens. I want to give you that vocab so you can search it on your own. It comes from more formal logic, like if you were taking a philosophy class. And so the TOEFL tests you on the awareness of it. And the way that is simple to talk about it for us is other side thinking. So the TOEFL will give you a sentence that's one side, and it will ask you to make an inference, which is the other side. What does that mean? So before we get into this here, let's just get a simple example. Rain requires the presence of clouds. Pretty basic, right? Rain requires the presence of clouds. Clouds in the sky, you need them in order to have rain. What's the other side of this? The other side of this is, if you don't have clouds, then you don't have rain, right? So this is the basic sense of the logic that's being tested around inference, because inference on the TOEFL is very much like math. It's not literature or interpretation. So you learn to read and see the other side of things. For example, most people like apples. So what can you infer from this? Pretty obvious, right? Some people don't like apples. So this other side thinking is a really big factor in the TOEFL. So for example, in talking about some things that are simple, let's say global warming, and they talk about glaciers melting, right? So they'll talk about a sentence that explains when the weather is colder, less ice melts. When the weather is warmer, what do you imagine happens? Ice melts, right? It's kind of logical, but it follows a little bit from that previous statement. So if you get something like this, as the weather rises, ice begins to melt and sea levels begin to rise. So if sea levels are rising, what do we know from, not we infer, I mean it's declared, ice melting, water increasing in the ocean, sea levels rise. So that is saying if the sea levels are rising, then ice, it could be saying a couple different ways to express it. In formal logic, I don't want to get, again, convoluted, but the idea is you make a connection. If ice melts, then sea levels rise, right? So let's say we make that connection. So if sea levels are not rising, we have a chance to infer that the ice is not melting. So again, this kind of language you have to be careful of, because as I'm saying this, where you get in a little bit of trouble is rain requires the presence of clouds. So here's the part that's important. If there are no clouds, then there is no rain. But does not mean the presence of clouds means it's raining, right? Because you can have clouds and there's no rain. So the tricky thing is understanding the flow of logic. But again, to explain this well, probably take another 15 to 30 minutes. However, we have a couple of things to explain. So I want to give you an introduction. But it's basically this idea. If A, then B, right? If it's raining, then you have clouds. The opposite, right? This is modus ponens, this is modus tollens. If there are no clouds, then there is no rain. That's because of what I declared. So the TOEFL, if it asks you for an inference, will give you something like rain requires the presence of clouds. What can you infer about rain? If there are no clouds, then there is no rain, right? So that's an inference where you take the information you know and it's kind of the other side of it. So again, this takes time. It's not easy for anybody, but as you review inference questions on the TOEFL reading, you're going to get a sense of this. This is I would say a common inference style question, maybe about 40 to 50%. So I hope that makes sense, something to think about. Now the next thing is extrapolation. This is rare, but to be complete, I wanted to share this with you. So what does it mean to extrapolate? When you extrapolate, you extend the application of something to an unknown situation by assuming that existing trends will continue. It's kind of like a big definition, right? Essentially, it means if what you know continues and then you make a guess, that's extrapolation. So for example, if we go back here, let's say you have a sentence. 10 years ago, Tom started buying one shirt every year. So you have some statements that show a trend, that show a pattern, that show something that tends to happen every year. You get that when you have readings on astronomy, especially geography, where, sedimentation, which is an important word if you're not familiar with, definitely want to make sure you know that. So sediment, and sedimentation, sedimentary, just deals with matter that settles at the bottom of a liquid, right? It's like dirt, rocks, pieces of something. So sediment. Now, in the buildup of sediment, you probably have trends or patterns, how fast it happens. So what can you infer about this? Now, this is interesting because this tells you I can't infer anything except that Tom likely, I don't know for sure, but likely he has at least 10 shirts right now. Maybe some got stolen, maybe some got dirty, he threw them away, maybe he got some as gifts. But the idea is I hope you're discovering that inference questions test your understanding of the sentence and what it means. So here, the answer would be Tom likely has at least 10 shirts, or Tom has purchased at least 10 shirts. That's probably a little bit of a more accurate inference. So again, when we review, rain requires the presence of clouds. What's the other side of that? No clouds, no rain. Most people like apples. What's the other side of that? Some people don't like apples. If you don't like apples, you're not part of the majority, right? So now there's another one called syllogism. So syllogism is what our example inference question will be on. So I hope this prepares you for it well. Syllogism is based, again, this is a logical, like a term used in formal logic, so you can research it on your own. But essentially it's the idea that if I say, if A then B, if B then C, then I can infer a syllogism says if A then C. So the way this appears on the TOEFL, it's like you replace something with what it equals. Again, the way that we teach this, that we see changes your perspective, the way that you think, to really help you on the TOEFL reading and inference questions, is it's like math. like formulas. And you just need to get used to it. So whenever you deal with any question, right, plug-in questions where you locate the sentence, inference questions, detail questions, summary questions, the most important thing to train, we'll talk about this in a little bit, is that you keep reviewing the same question. Your brain develops a deeper awareness of the grammar, of the order of words, of the way the TOEFL creates answers and wrong answers. That's really important. If you do that and watch these videos, it's telling your brain what to look for. So again, we'll talk about that. But what does that look like? It's often when the TOEFL creates two well-connected sentences and is testing your ability to see the connection. So let's say we have one sentence that says, ants hurt insects that harm plants. So it's like this big statement. Any ant is going to hurt any insect that harms plants, right? Just an example. Now you have another sentence. Grasshoppers are insects that harm plants. I think the inference kind of jumps out at you, right? So the word that they connect with is insects. So it's like syllogism in the sense that ants hurt insects that harm plants. Grasshoppers are insects that harm plants. What can we infer? Ants hurt grasshoppers. We don't have a sentence that says that, but it's very obvious from the sentences, right? That's what an inference is. It's not literature, it's not poetry, it's not making a story. It's very precise and focused on the information presented. So if we review again, it's very precise, right? Rain requires the presence of clouds. What can we infer? No clouds, no rain. No other words, not I have to take an umbrella, right? You can only make inference directly from the words that appear in the reading. That's what the TOEFL is testing you on. Do you know the difference between what you're kind of telling yourself as a story and what is directly related to the reading? Most people like apples. We can't infer apples are tasty. We can't infer that apples are loved by people. All we can infer is most people like apples. From that, some people don't like apples, right? But where we get challenged is we start to use words in our head instead of words in the reading. So we don't see anything about taste. So we can't infer anything about taste. We don't see anything about nutrition. So we can't infer anything about nutrition. We can't say, well, apples must be nutritious. Maybe apples are horrible, but people are forced to eat them by other people who are not very nice. You know, it's like all we can do is go from the sentence we have. So I think this really shows that. So the TOEFL is checking, can you see this connection? That's what they're doing, and it's not so easy. So what we're going to do is, in time management, you have about 1 minute and 40 seconds per question. We teach you, you could see episode 9, we linked that before, that you spend about 8.5 minutes per 5 questions. So you can spend extra time as a result of answering some questions early. So we say only use the time you've saved, right? So if you haven't answered a question early or faster, you don't want to take more time on one question to be safe. So let's pretend the inference is a bit tougher. Other questions you've answered earlier, right? You've answered sooner than time management. They came a little faster to you. So we're going to give you 2 minutes to answer this question. So in 2 minutes, we're going to give you a clue, right? This inference question is testing your understanding of syllogism. Some extrapolation, some modus ponens or tollens, which we call the other side. So, at least the way that we use it. Because remember, we're not here to teach you formal logic, so we're not using those words so precisely, but it's a way to open your mind to understanding. So I hope you read with greater care and ease for inference questions. So 2 minutes. There's your inference question on the screen. Good luck, and begin answering it now. All right, and so what was your answer? We hope that you discovered a few things. Number one, that A is not mentioned. There's nothing that allows you to infer A, no statement like that. The same thing with D. So what you can imagine, because we only gave you part of the paragraph, is that other parts of the paragraph earlier, maybe other parts of the passage, they have these words, but there's no statement that you can make. And that's how the TOEFL challenges you, because it'll just take words that appear in the paragraph and just make a random sentence with it. So if you don't have this clarity that I need a sentence, that from that sentence there's math, it's very absolutely logical. Either the other side, right? Most people like apples, some people don't like apples. An extrapolation that's very clear, right? This has been happening, this has been building by 1 meter for the last 10 years. What can you infer? It's likely over 10 meters tall, something like that, right? Now here, did you see a few things? Number one, here they have the same sentence, but they actually create a wrong answer by the opposite idea. They say the powder that appears, and again, so this is part of the paragraph, so you didn't get the complete story, but this powder then appears to have been brushed or smeared, right? And to smear, for those of you who are not familiar, means to coat or mark messily or carelessly with the greasy or sticky substance. Kind of, you take some paint and you just rub it, not so skillfully, right? So brushed or smeared, while in others, in some cases, while in others. So while in other cases, they're actually saying how many methods are explained. At least two, right? They're actually saying more than one, like brushed or smeared. Those are two ways in some cases. While in others, this other way where they're blown or sprayed, right? So what can you infer? You can infer there were many ways that they painted. You don't get that sentence, but you can infer by putting these two things together. And so that actually makes C incorrect, right? So the only thing that's correct is B, boy, because they then say in these cases, which implies that the one in the yellow, right? The cases where the paint is blown or sprayed, scientists surmise. Surmise is a great word to learn. So surmise. Suppose that something is true without having direct evidence to confirm it, right? So they surmise here. In these cases, scientists surmise that tubes made from hollow bone may have been used as tools for the spraying because hollow bones marked with pigment were discovered close by. So what does this tell us? That tubes made from hollow bone may have been used, tubes may have been used for the spraying. So for the spraying is the connection that we're making. Sprayed the material, right? So what was used for the spraying? They're making the connection. They're testing, do you see that? Tubes made from hollow bone. So what can you infer? Hollow bones were possibly used for the spraying of material onto rock surfaces. Now we have another connection because hollow bones marked with pigment, used as tools. So we have the hollow bone used as tools for the spraying. And then we have the evidence for that. So scientists surmised maybe that was, surmises without evidence, so the evidence is here. So the author is probably saying that this isn't strong evidence, but it's where they kind of came up with their hypothesis. So scientists surmised that tubes made from hollow bone were used for the spraying, and they were tools. So we can surmise that they used hollow bones, and that hollow bone was used as a tool. So it's a tool. So that tells us they may have had the capacity to craft rudimentary tools. So craft means make. So we don't have that clear statement there, but here's what we have directly. In some cases, they sprayed the material onto rock. How did they do it? They used tubes made from hollow bone. Hollow bone, we're calling a tool, right? They're the ones using that. They're saying it's a tool. So what does that mean? They may have been able to make tools because they made hollow bones, we believe. We're considering hollow bones a tool, so these are equal. They may have been able to make hollow bone. They may have been able to make tools. Now, for most of you, I also think there's a sense that B is correct because you read the key words, you saw them together, it makes basic sense. But as you start to read more carefully, you see this, you start to read what I like to call mathematically. So that means you're actually connecting all the words. When you see for the spraying, your brain automatically connects it with the sentence before. So the artists are spraying. So what can we infer? The artist used hollow bones. The artist used tools. The artist made hollow bones. The artist made tools, right? So any one of those could work. So I hope that makes sense. There's other inferences you can make, but this shows in our experience an illustration around the concept of syllogism, where they're taking information from two different sentences and creating references, and then from those references you can create connections, right? Ants hurt insects that harm plants. Grasshoppers are insects that harm plants. Therefore, we can infer ants hurt grasshoppers even though it's not stated directly. Here, one more time just to review. In other cases, artists blow or spray material onto rock. For the spraying, they use tubes made from hollow bones. We can infer artists used hollow bones. We also have a connection used as tools, which means the author is saying the hollow bones are the same as tools. So we can infer, just as we can infer artists used hollow bones, tubes made from hollow bones, artists used tools they made. Something like that, right? So it's creating that connection. And a couple things to make sure that you remember with this, and that's the idea that you don't want to argue for an answer. You want to choose the answer that's most directly connected with the reading. Because our brains can create a connection with anything, but that gets us into trouble. So you want to keep it very, very simple. So we hope that helps. Now let's review by taking a look at our vocabulary once more and reviewing the lesson. Okay, so here's our vocabulary. The first one we see bulldog. That came from the comments that you put in the last episode, just reminding us that's a fantastic, strong energy to have when it takes to creating your TOEFL success. Stay strong. It's not easy. Be a bulldog about it, right? Convoluted. Convoluted means, detailed, heavily complex, difficult to follow. Some things are a little convoluted in the sense of the complexity. There are several things to understand. Some things just require, there are several steps, there are several parts of the process of mastery. Inference questions have a little bit of that. But in the end, we can keep it simple by just what we referenced. Other side thinking, extrapolation. We remember that's where we take a trend or a pattern and we just assume it's going to continue through time. So we get inference questions about that too, as well as the other side thinking, right? Where we have a statement where we have if this, then that, so we can infer the opposite, right? If it's raining, then we know clouds are in the sky. Rain requires the presence of clouds. So we know the opposite. No clouds, no rain. Same thing with most people like apples. So what can I infer if we don't like apples? We're not most people. Some people. We're not the majority. We're the minority. So some people like apples, don't like apples, right? Then we had the syllogism, right, which was the equal, just to kind of review from extrapolate. That was one of the three ways of thinking that help you with inference questions, and that's what our inference question was on. Sediment, just like an important word in our discussion, which is the broken pieces or remains of something, often used for dirt, rocks, broken pieces of rock. Smear, we learned that with our reading with paint, right? If that's a topic that you're not familiar with, ancient paintings, right? The places where they've been found, something to Google or YouTube as we learn, so we build our vocabulary. So smear is to kind of spread messily. And surmise, we know, is to express a belief when there's not strong or clear evidence that supports it. And that was part of the reading that we did as well. So we hope you found this helpful. Inference questions just as a strategy and a way of doing things. We know the basics of it, right? We read the question, we look for the key words in the reading from the question, we discover, okay, what's a possible answer? We look at the answer choices. So there are so many things to teach, but what we wanted to concentrate on today were the ways of thinking, the ways of reading that the TOEFL is actually testing you on outside of just strategy, like the actual way to improve how you read so these questions become easier, and when you review them, you can really start to build a skill so these questions aren't as tough. So as usual, right, the next part is giving you your thumbs up, because if you're here, fantastic and awesome, right? Not everybody makes it to the end of the video. You've worked hard. We hope you found this helpful. So first thumbs up goes to you. Well done. You stayed strong. The next thing is make sure if you liked the video, if you found it helpful, to give us a thumbs up too. Lets us know we're doing well for you. And hit subscribe, right? So you keep getting those lessons. You see how they connect from one to the other so you can follow the series. So final point, just to make sure you're on track, couple of things, right? Because here's where we talk about working together, the lesson is complete, how to stay strong for success. Double check how much you're studying. Do you have a schedule between now and your next TOEFL? The average student who succeeds with NoteFull and improves the fastest, they're studying about 12 or 24 hours a week. Are you matching that? Can you work towards that? Number two, how effectively you study. That's what we were talking about earlier, where you're making review 80% of how you study. So not just new practice, 80% is reviewing your training and practice questions like the question we did over and over so that you build mastery. Because remember, the TOEFL has many different topics, but they're testing you on habits, ways of reading. It's going to be the exact same style of grammar and vocabulary in one reading from another. So when you review, especially the questions that are tough, you build a skill so another tough question, you can answer it because it's tough for the same reason. Not so much because of the words, but of the grammar they use, the way they make wrong answers and right answers. And number three is what you study. So that combines a little bit with number two in making sure that you're using material that matches the TOEFL and that you've already done before. Like 20% of your studying on new material, about 80% on material you've already reviewed and trained with to build that mastery. That's what we've learned over 12 years creates the biggest success. And so to end, right, final point, what is the most important thing, the most important point you learned from this episode? What helped you with the reading? Any part of it, right? What was the biggest thing that stuck with you and I'm going to focus on that to get my dream score. And next, we want to transition into the listening section with you. So what help do you need most in the listening section? Where can you improve? What challenges you? So make sure to leave those answers in the comment section. Can't wait. Feel very excited to review them. And for those of you watching this video kind of on time when it was released, Happy New Year to 2021, making the TOEFL end in 2021, the last year with the TOEFL. So as always, we're here to help you every step of the way. If you need more help, just go ahead and click on the link below that explains how we can keep working together with our material so that we can train you the 24 plus hours a week with our training and our online classes. We have some very special things for the new year, so make sure to click the link below the video for that. So until then, see you in the next episode or on the site when you click on the link below to keep training. Until then, you can do it. Stay strong. Have a wonderful day. Safe new year. Until next time, bye-bye.